Welcome back. I'm Sam Hedden, and we have an amazing panel today. We're talking to some amazing women who do different things in the film field. And I am so excited to introduce you to Gwen, who we've had on previously, with Now You Know with Sam Hedden. We have Jessica, and we also have Lori. The first question I have is maybe you could tell us a little bit about who you are. So since on my screen it goes Gwen, Jessica, Lori, we'll start with Gwen. Who are you and what do you do? Like, what's your main focus?
Okay. Well, hi, Gwen Ruhoff, and my main focus in the film industry would be acting in short films, feature films. Lately I've done a lot of music videos. I have directed, produced, and written as well, but that is happens less. And I enjoy branching out and doing other things, but acting is my favorite.
Perfect. Jessica, on my screen, you are up next. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Jessica Mraz. And yeah, you're right. I do different things. In film, I'm strictly an actor. I did produce a short a few years ago called Devil's Night. Executive producer, not really set producer. It was a great film, and it reminded me a lot of my old neighborhood, and I loved the script. So I decided to help produce it. I thought it was really well done and had a great cast of actors from Minnesota. And yeah, I've been in a couple of features. I love the camaraderie that I have with the rest of the cast, but my favorite are features, feature films. And yeah, I've been really lucky in the roles that I've gotten. I also was in a short film a couple of years ago, and I'm waiting for a web series to come out, so that'll be great.
You also do voiceover work. Like, you do a ton of voiceover. Like, that's huge for you.
Voiceover is my main work. Yeah, I do a lot. Commercials, specialized commercials, bilingual stuff, Spanish, English, English with Spanish accents. And then I've done probably like 100 audiobooks for kids. Lots of books and the occasional poem. So I'm great.
That's fantastic. Lori, would you like to go next?
Hi, Sam. Hi, Jessica and Gwen. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited and delighted to be with the other two ladies and you. You're all incredibly talented women who have made their mark in this field, so I'm honored that you included me. I do on camera mostly. I act in shorts and features and theater and commercials, and I do live TV hosting and interviewing for live events. So I enjoy all of it. It gives me, I never get bored, I guess, with all of that. Plus, I've been trying my hand at behind the scenes things. I've done some casting lately and location scouting, and I have also done executive producing. So that's me.
I guess the next big question is, it's not an industry that everybody thinks I'm going to do this one day. So what made you decide, like, what was your moment where you were like, I'm going to be in the film industry, I'm going to do this? Like, what was that defining moment where you're like, this is what I want to do?
I have always been an actress. I have always wanted the attention. I like attention. I grew up the fifth out of six kids, so sometimes you had to get the attention. You kind of make your mark, and but I really got into acting in high school when I was in theater productions, and we did traveling theater, and we would go to other schools and do the one act plays. I was fortunate enough to have a teacher that was a writer, and he wrote many one act plays that had been performed all over. And I was fortunate enough to be in some of his very first ones. So I'm like original cast in the script, and it's pretty cool. But we also did dinner theater through this theater productions through my high school. And I loved every second of it. It was, I got that attention that I had always been seeking. But I also was able to work as a team to create art. I was able to bring emotions out in other people. I was able to play other people. I was able to live lives that I would never be able to do in real life. And with my teacher, we had a one act play called Dolls. And it was about teen pregnancy. And we were able to educate as well. And I also am a special education paraprofessional. So that educating was kind of cool too. So I would say it was in high school that I really got the bug, but I am still a parent, and I raised my son, and I didn't get back into acting until about 8 years ago. Out of high school, I did some acting in college, some college classes, but I didn't didn't go any further. And then about 9 years ago, I got back in. My son was out of the house. He could take care of himself. It was Gwen time again. Gwen got to be Gwen and not just mom at the swim meet and mom at karate practice. And I auditioned for a few things, and I did a couple of commercials, and that got me into it. And then I met somebody through the commercials that got me into short films. And then the short films got me into feature films, positive workplaces. And that's brought me to where I am today.
Lori, since you're on screen number 2 now, we'll see where you started and what got you into film work.
Oh my goodness. I am much like Gwen in that I started when I was a kid. I started modeling when I was 8, and I started being in productions and choirs. My undergraduate is in music, and so I was in every kind of music you could possibly imagine throughout school, throughout all my school. Musical theater, and musical theater got me into regular theater, and I did Model UN, so I was constantly in front of people, and that seemed to be home for me. I know, like, some people think that would just be the worst possible thing to happen to them, to have to stand in front of people and and give a speech. I remember speech class in high school. It was my dream class. I loved it. And you know that. And when you're not doing that, you feel like a fish out of water. When you're not performing, when you're not in front of people, when you're not under the lights, you feel bad. So I went through college, still performing, and then I'm modeling, and had a couple of agents here in the Twin Cities. And then I had kids. Wah, wah, wah. And Gwen just said, when you have kids, your life isn't yours. Basically, that's what I was hearing her say. And you don't get to pursue your dreams. I hope there are women listening, young women listening to this, because if that's what you want to pursue, if you have a child, I just don't see it happening for you. Isn't that sad to say? But it might be true unless you have a partner who is super supportive and is able to help you raise that child. Because the schedule for acting and film and modeling is, you never know from day to day, right? You don't know from day to day where you're going to be sometimes. Your agent texts you sometimes and says, hey, are you available for this? And if you say no, if they may not text you again. They might not text you for that particular thing again. You might have lost out on it. That's part of getting jobs. Boy, I'm getting into other subjects, tangents. But after my kids started getting old enough and I taught them, please be independent and be able to raise yourself, or not raise yourself, but take care of yourself, cook for yourself, clean for yourself, and slowly get them so that they can fly away. I still have some at home. But I started building. As soon as they were able to start doing some of those things, I started building things for myself. And film, I just want to make an aside about film, and maybe we're coming to this, is that film isn't theater. It's a completely different skill. And we'll maybe get to this, but I had to have coaches and they had to knock me down a few notches because with theater, you want to be as big as the room, as the stage will allow. And you want that person in that 700-person theater to see you. Whereas with film, I can raise my eyebrow or give you a little smirk and you know exactly what I'm thinking. You know what's going on in my brain. So it took me about a year of coaching to get knocked down to that level.
I would have never, I mean, I know for a fact theater and film are very different. And it's always interesting when someone's transitioning and they haven't had coaching. So that's interesting that you mentioned that. Jessica, how about you? How did you get into the film work and voiceover work that you do?
Well, I could never seem to get the right coach or the right training until I moved back to Minnesota. I have been living in, well, let's start about what I wanted to do when I knew I wanted to get into it. I wanted to have my own talk show, and I used to talk about it all the time in high school. And I liked to imitate people. And I'm one of 9 children, and my dad and my brothers and sisters and I used to make up these different voices, and we would create stories about people we ran into. I didn't realize that I was acting. And I've always been acting. I always found myself doing little sketches and creating stories and sharing them with people, whether they really wanted to hear them or not. I went to college and studied interpreting, and I loved working in the hospital. In between the times of the patients, I would joke around and we would then do funny accents, all different types of Spanish accents, people from Cuba, people from Spain, people from Argentina, and we would entertain each other, all of us, because all the people that I worked with spoke Spanish. And so we would joke around and we would just make up these stories. And then sometimes the phone would ring, we would answer it, and, I would do a Russian accent, or something. And it was just, we would joke around. And then when I came to Minnesota in 2016, I had been here for a while, and yes, I had a child in 2008. So by 2016, he was 8 years old. And I thought, I know I don't do interpreting anymore. And then I know that I want to get into voiceover. I have to. I absolutely have to. And the next day, ding, the phone rang. And it was this man, and he said, Italian translation? And I was like, oh, God. I was like, I know it's not a talent agency. Who is this guy? And I said, well, who's the company? What's it for? Is it voiceover? And I thought, oh, my God, this is my chance. And he said, oh, some company, Aveda, I don't know, cosmetics. And I said, oh, okay, great. I know Aveda. That was how I got into voiceover. And the money that I got from that spot, and I invested it in training here. And I went, and after a month, I thought, oh, this is it. This is what I'm going to do now. And a few months later, I got with an agent at More Creative. And I would say that you you can't go in with a plan and think, okay, I've got my headshots, I've got my agent, now I'm going to, start auditioning. Things fall in your lap, and things also get away from you that you think you had.
You've obviously all been on sets. You've worked with crews, you've worked with multiple people. As women, do you think that women are treated a little bit differently on set? Is that something that you've noticed? Is that something that maybe is something that you'd want to see changed or improved?
It's the same as women in any other field of employment. I don't feel that it's equal opportunity, and I don't think there's necessarily equal pay and equal respect. Now, I'm not saying that I feel like I'm disrespected all the time or anything like that, but I have had personal experiences where I know they wouldn't have treated a man the same way. It seems like there's less female leads, there's less female directors, and it's the times are changing, and we do have more women out there and more women dominating, more women in film, but we're still working, still feel like we're having to work harder to get to that point. It does not mean that I have not had some wonderful opportunities. I have. And I'm not saying that I've been treated wrong by everybody, but I have had that casting couch situation where I don't feel a man would have been in the same predicament. I remember there was a certain music video that I was doing that I tried out for. I didn't get the role. So, but I tried out for one role, and they said, well, why don't you try out for this other one? And I'm like, well, it was supposed to be an older, like in her 60s, and but I'm like, okay, well, maybe, sometimes they see something and they change their mind. They're like, hey, try this, and maybe, you'd be good for that. I was like, okay. So I'm like, sure. And well, this woman was supposed to jump up and down and woohoo. So I had the jump up and down. Okay, let's do this again. Jump up and down. And after a while, it was like, okay, this don't feel right, kind of thing. And I was kind of glad that I didn't get the role, but I do not want to say don't get into the business. Don't try it out. Like everybody is a Harvey Weinstein or something. No, I'm not saying that. Please, please, please. But do I think that there are pros and cons, or do I feel like women can be treated differently? Yes, I do.
I would piggyback off of some things that Gwen said. And that is, there are fewer men in film, and there are more roles for them in film. And they're begging for men to come in and audition and send their tapes. And they will actually maybe incentivize them by saying, we'll pay you to come and take these roles. Whereas there might be 3 roles for women, and all 3 of them might be in a certain age range or whatever, but then they'll get 100 or 200 or 500. Really, so many women to compete for the same roles. And guess what? They don't have to pay them, because there is always some woman who will come along and take that role for free. They want that role on their reel, or they want to meet the casting team. Whereas the men, they can pick and choose basically what roles they get. I would, since you're showing this to younger women, I would say that there are the vultures out there who will lure you in with one thing. And Gwen also mentioned this, and it's a bait and switch. I've had big name producers from Los Angeles contact me and say, we have this family film it's with kids. You would be, you know, a mom. And I was like, yes, let's do this thing. And then you get to the interview and he's describing a completely different role that mimics Sharon Stone. And then he sends you the script and it's even worse than he described. You know, so I can laugh about it because I said no. But there is that out there. What if he didn't describe it completely? And I went out there and he had said, don't bring any of your friends with you. We want you to be alone. We want you to be here for a month and we want you to be here alone. And, you know, what if I went thinking that this is my chance? And he put me in some sort of really uncomfortable situation. That's very possible. And I feel like women might be treated not just in a sexist or sexy sort of situation, but maybe it's talked down to a little, like they're not quite as smart, or they're not quite as prepared, or they're not quite as well studied as men. Not sure what would give them that idea. I've had directors say, this is the way I want you to say the line, blah, 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 blah. I have a whole backstory. I've maybe consulted a coach. I've you know, set this character up in my mind as to who they are. And I've brought everything to this role that you asked for and my own flavors, and to tell me how to say the line is just really degrading. Things like that.
Actually, that made me think of another question. So before we move on, Jessica, did you want to chime in with anything at all?
And I am a firm believer in that men and women are very different. And it's not just, you know, their gender. It has to, we think differently, we do things differently, we are different. And that may not be a very popular opinion these days, but I believe that. And I believe that a woman on set in a position of power really lends a lot to not only how other women feel on set, but in how it's going to approach something. I noticed that in The Hunter. I felt incredibly supported. I felt respected. I felt honored. I felt celebrated on set. And Alexander P. Gunderman is a wonderful, wonderful director. And Nora Tarski-O'Brien is fantastic. And the two of them together are a great pair. And there were certain things that Nora did as assistant director that were wonderful, and little things that she did on set that made me feel incredibly at ease and just, I guess, in solidarity with everybody there. But I don't think that her not being there would have made me feel uncomfortable. It's not like I need a woman on the set because otherwise I'm not going to feel safe. No, not at all. Just different perspectives. And I think we need that. And I think sometimes when people are really young and they're getting into this field, they're so excited that they'll take any role, and they'll take roles without pay. And then they build a reputation of working for free. And I don't. All the work that I do is paid. And when others are being paid in the same film, everyone should be paid and everyone should be compensated. And
Yes.
When you're doing a major production, when you're doing a film that is non-union, but you've big names in there, you still have to pay everybody in there. We're all important. We're all valuable. And if I'm good enough to be cast and I'm trusted with your script, then I am worthy of being paid. And I think that generates more paid work. And I approach voiceover the same way. I will not undercut the agents that are so diligently working for us, because they might rep you in a film too. It's not just on camera, commercials and voiceover. So for all people that are younger and getting into this don't give yourself away.
See, I need you lovely ladies to tell me a little bit about how to find an agent, because I need to start getting paid.
I don't have an agent, Sam. I find everything on my own.
Oh,
So-
well, that's good to know too.
I missed saying this for the last question. I do think women are not represented to be able, I don't think they're allowed to age, and I don't think they're allowed to gain a little weight. Because, which is funny, is you have a couple in a film or on TV, right? And let's say they're both in their 40s, happily married. He's got a little bit of a gut, and she's still a yoga master, and and you go on audition for certain things, and it doesn't say certain descriptions ask for somebody who's fit or toned, or and I'm a curvy actress, so I'm not going to audition for Peloton, or I shouldn't do name brands, but I mean, I'm not gonna audition or try out for roles that I know that I physically do not match. But when you have a description saying 30 to 50-year-old Caucasian, or something, and it doesn't give a description, a physical, like I'm not going to be Tomb Raider, I'm not going to be something like that. If it doesn't, they should be auditioning and letting all women of all sizes, all races, all try out for these roles. I love the TV show American Housewife because she feels out of place moving to a town where they're all thin and fit, and she's not, and I can relate to her. It's nice to see somebody that I can relate to as well. And there's a lot of beautiful women, but we all come in all shapes and sizes, and it is getting better. We're seeing women in the music industry that are different sizes, and now we're seeing in modeling and commercials, and it's becoming more and more mainstream, but it has taken so long. And age-wise, it's okay if we have wrinkles, because we've lived a life. It's okay that we look real.
Yeah.
Coming from the blonde who dyes her hair, but it is okay for us to age. And if you have a couple and they grew together, a lot of times they might gain weight together because they're happy. They do things together. They go out to eat together. They do things together. If you have a fit couple, they usually stay fit together as well because they work out together and they do things. So I'd like to see just a little more realism and diversity. Diversity to me doesn't just mean color. To me, it also means age, weight. We're all beautiful women, all shapes and sizes, and I think we should be embracing it more.
So now let's move on to a little bit more of a fun question. What was your favorite role? If you could pick one role, what was it that was your absolute favorite? If you could go back and play that character again.
I have two favorites, if I can cheat a little on the a few years ago I played a psychologist and I really loved playing that role. I thought that it was really nice to be the kind kind of cool, collected, calm person that I'm not normally in everyday life. I loved how kind and friendly, and it was, for some reason, it was really easy to learn the lines for me. They flowed. It was really good writing. That was in a film I was in a few years ago. And then I loved my role in The Hunter because it really challenged me to play that character. I was really stripped of any kind of physical mask that I could wear, for a lot of the film. I really wasn't very well kept or glamorous looking, and I had to really let myself be seen.
Glad that there's at least, I'm glad two of them stood out. So that's perfect.
I love playing the sultry, dark, sexy roles. There's one, the Chairman is on Amazon Prime. You can find that. Gehenna, that was a blast. But also, and you can find that on YouTube. But I think my favorite was Riled Child. It was a goofy character. I was in a musical production at the time, and I was doing my makeup for a 70s character, like Farrah Fawcett-ish. And so I did it kind of halfway because I was filming this character in the morning and doing a musical production in the afternoon. And they were good. They got me in and out. But I got to be this goofy nut but she lives inside me. This goofy nut. And I would just love, they have another script for her. As some, they've done another story for her. They just haven't pulled the trigger on it, but I would love to play her again. It would be so much fun.
I love the description of Farrah Fawcett hair, mostly because there is going to be a group of people watching this that may not have that knowledge of what Farrah Fawcett hair is, and they may have to go to the Google machine.
Yeah.
70s characters, so that's who they gave us pictures of to emulate. Please make your hair look like this. And they sent us a picture of Farrah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sure you pulled it off lovely.
Hot rollers.
There you go. Gwen, what was one of your favorite roles?
I've done a lot of horror work where I've been demons and zombies and stuff like that. But my favorite role was Tally in The Journey. And The Journey was my passion project. And it's about the struggles of a woman who has breast cancer and the commitment of her husband and how they go through this together. I wrote this film after my mother died. My mother had lung cancer, but I chose breast cancer because I feel like more people could relate to it and it's easier to portray on screen. This character meant a lot to me because I would go to sit in the waiting room while my mom was getting radiation, and I would look around at the family members and the friends that were waiting in the waiting room, and I thought I wanted to do a story where cancer wasn't the main focus, but it was the relationship between the person with cancer and their caregiver, the person that's by their side and helping them get through this. So that film means a lot to me. I wrote, directed, produced, and starred in that film. And Tally will always have a special place in my heart.
Where can we find your reels? Do you have a website? Do you have a place that we can find a way to work with you? Because I know lots of people would love to work with you ladies.
So if you want to find my reel or photos of me, you want to ogle me, you can go to my website at www.loriroovers, that's LORIROO, V as in Victor, ERS as in Sam.com.
Perfect. Thank you, Lori. All right.
You're welcome. Thank you, Sam. This has been so fun.
Go ahead, Jessica. It's your
and you can find out more about me if you're interested in voiceover. If you think that I might be somebody that you want to talk to about a role in your film, and I'm at jessicamraz.com. So it's MRAZ.com. Yeah, that's it for me.
You can find me at Gwen Ruhoff, RUHOFF.com. And I'm also on Twitter and Instagram. And I would love, for you to come check out my website. There's a photo gallery and my resume and video samples of my work.
Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate the three of you taking time out of your busy schedules to be a part of this panel. I think that you gave great advice. I think that we got some good insight. I think that hearing about your different experiences and your projects have been absolutely fantastic. So thank you. I really appreciate you guys being on here. Guys, gals. This has been Sam Hedden with producer Andy Watson. And now you know Gwen, Lori, and Jessica.